The all-new GWM Tank 300 has finally arrived in Australia. And while it might look like the love child of a bizarre three-way between a Suzuki Jimny, a Jeep Wrangler and maybe a Ford Bronco, this Chinese mudslinger backs up its chunky design with a proper ladder frame, low range and front and rear locking diffs. Plus, it's got a starting price of less than $50,000 drive away. We've had a brief taste of this car previously in controlled conditions, but now we're free to roam and we're keen to see how it fares on our favourite stomping ground and to check out the value equation now we know the price. And what's your take? Would you consider a budget Chinese off-roader like this? Have your say in the comments below and don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. The GWM Tank 300 starts at $46,990 drive away, making it one of the most affordable 4x4s in Australia. In fact, the only large off-road SUV that's cheaper is the new 6-seat Mahindra Scorpio. And although the Tank 300 only has 5 seats, it's a bigger vehicle. We're testing the non-hybrid top spec Ultra model here, fitted with loads of premium equipment. It's a brazen move using the Tank name because, well, if it ain't built like one, it's going to turn into a public relations disaster. And look, it's impossible to know what it will be like in the long term in regards to reliability, but it does come with a 7-year unlimited kilometre warranty and 5 years roadside assist, which should add a little bit of reassurance. This vehicle's closest rival is probably the Jeep Wrangler, which starts at $81,450. And before you jump to conclusions, bear in mind the Tank 300 is not just an empty shell pretending to be a 4x4 Wrangler lookalike. It's got plenty of off-road gubbins, including front and rear diff-locks, a dual-range transfer case, decent ground clearance and generous approach and departure angles. Here we have a fairly conventional turbo-petrol combustion engine, which pumps out pretty decent power and torque for its size. There is a turbo diesel engine available in China, but not Australia. And it's also going to be interesting to see if Aussie aftermarket companies get behind a vehicle like this with a whole bunch of accessories. There is a stack load already available in China from China's biggest 4x4 supplier, let's get it right, Yunliang. So there's no reason why I couldn't see a whole bunch of accessories being developed for a vehicle like this. I don't know about you, but when I look at this tank, I'm seeing a lot of Jeep Wrangler DNA in that boxy shape, those flared wheel arches, and there's a bit of Suzuki Jimny around the grille, and the headlights, they are dead ringers for the Ford Broncos. But the almost 4.8 metre long 4x4 is still a striking vehicle, especially in this dusk orange colour, and it has plenty of practical extras like underbody protection, front, middle and rear, recovery hooks fore and aft, 224mm of ground clearance and approach and departure angles of 33 degrees and 34 degrees. Wading depth is rated at 700mm and you also get black roof rails, wheel arch protection, side steps with steel spines and a full-size spare tyre slung on the rear tailgate. But one of the most important elements, all-terrain tyres, are missing. Instead, you get these road-based Michelin Primacy SUV rubbers. We'll soon see if they're a weak link when we take it off-road. While the exterior has a distinctly rugged American look, the interior couldn't be more different. It's more luxurious, it's more highbrow, and it's quite European. In fact, I'd go as far to say it is very, very similar to the Mercedes G-Wagon. I mean, look at the Jesus handle here, the air vents, the black and white motif and stitching on the seats, the patterning on the door cards. It all gives off a very pungent Swabian musk. Material quality in the cabin ranges from lavish to low cost. The Napa leather accented seat upholstery, door inserts and dashboard toppers are highlights, while some of the plastics around the air vents and on the middle dash are pretty crummy. But the power-operated front seats are comfy and supportive. They're quite wide and welcoming. And the leather quality is surprisingly good as well. Plus, they're heated and cooled, a nice luxury feature. And there's even a massage function, but to call it a massage function is probably being economical with the truth, because basically gets the lumbar adjuster, moves it up and down, in and out. It's more like being massaged by a bag of rice or a sea breeze or something. There's a rather nice 9-speaker Infinity audio system, and the twin 12.3-inch screens look awesome, adding a nice dollop of technology. They offer way more functions and options than you'll ever need. There's no head-up display, and the driver's display is pretty busy. The numerical rev counter will take some getting used to, and a simple mode with less data swirling around would have been nice. Oh, before I go any further, I have to show you the key fob. It is absolutely beautiful. It's like something out of a starship. It feels good, it looks good, but I also just realized there's no hook to hook your keys onto, and so I'm kind of torn. I kind of love it, but I don't like the fact you can't. Anyway, let's check out the storage solutions. Under here, you've got a large central bin with a little port here that allows you to pump the air conditioning through, and it acts like a chili bin, so you can cool down your drinks or whatever. There's a sliding section here revealing 2 cup holders. You've got a large wireless phone charger, which I love, it's great. 2 USB ports, USB A and C, a 12-volt socket, and you've got a USB A up here for dash cams, which is cool. But you can see where they've cut corners a little bit. You've got all this exposed area along here. That might fill up with dust, and this section here is a factory-fitted Huntsman Spider hidey hole, no doubt about it. You get a cool Top Gun style aviation gear shifter, and check out all the off-road tech. You've got dual range 4-wheel drive settings, high and low, plus 2-wheel drive low for regular driving, 5 terrain settings, hill descent control, plus locking front and rear diffs, not to mention several external camera views and general drive mode settings. I really like what GWM has done with the climate controls here and here. They're all hard buttons. You don't have to drill through the menus to do anything, and it's all simple and straightforward, and little touches. You've got an analog clock here, and look, the whole cabin, it's got plenty of room, it's nicely finished, it's well equipped. I quite like what they've done here. I really like this grab handle, side steps. Getting into this high riding car is super easy, and guess what? It's really good back here too. Loads of leg room, heaps of headroom, and this leather again is really quite nice. All the usual stuff's there, fold out armrests with cup holders, air vents, twin USB A ports, extra grab handles, reading lights, and all the provisions for your child seat anchorages too. Yeah, pretty good. The side opening tailgate reveals a little bit of amenity. You've got a plastic pocket here, some bag holders, but check this out. This little step allows good access to loading stuff on the roof rails, but the boot, not as big as I expected. Amenity is good though, with an LED light, a 12-volt socket, and a 220-volt power point, not to mention 6 tie-down hooks with 2 high mounts. Folding down the rear seats liberates more room as well, and I like the fact they fold fully flat. There's also a lock on the tailgate's gas strut to keep it jammed open, which is good if it's windy or you're on a slope. The interior has some real highlights, but it lacks polish in a lot of areas as well. Will the same be true on and off-road? Cue the driving music. Compared to the Wrangler, there is way less tyre noise, and that's because it's not riding on all terrains, but it's generally a pretty quiet vehicle. There is a little bit of wind noise around those upright windows and the mirrors, but overall, it's not too bad. I think what they've done here is they've decided to make an easygoing, easy to drive vehicle, and I could commute in this every day of the week, no drama. And I also really like that commanding view of the road. It's good. The powertrain is best described as inoffensive. The 2-litre turbo engine is responsive, but it lacks low-end grunt, and the car's 2,155 kilogram curb weight means standing starts are fairly tame. It generates sufficient mid-range thrust to provide decent acceleration on country roads, which is pretty good considering its chubby mass. The engine is smooth and refined, and it revs cleanly to higher speeds. And while the acoustics don't really match its tough image, I reckon I've heard toys that sound better than this, it is a pretty solid all-rounder. It feels like a pretty flexible engine. Ride comfort is good, and the big rig with its agricultural ute underpinnings absorbs potholes easily and takes corrugations in its stride. The steering is quite light, which is great in the burbs, but on open roads like this, it's almost too sensitive. I find myself having to make a few micro adjustments to sort of keep it in the center of the lane. Not a huge fan of that. And the handling dynamics too, pretty much what you'd expect. Average. This vehicle is designed for off-roading, not slamming through hairpins at full speed. You know, there's a fair bit of body roll, it lists and leans when you're going through the corners, and you know, it's the sort of car you want to approach tight corners fairly gingerly. You don't want to hack in at full speed. And like other GWM products we've sampled recently, the calibration of driver assistance systems needs work. The auto steering systems pinball the car from side to side sometimes, but the adaptive cruise control is pretty smooth. Fuel efficiency is claimed at 9.5 litres per 100 kilometres, but the best we could manage was 12.9 litres per 100 kilometres. Look, it's not terrible for a car of this size, shape and weight, but it's not great either. All right, now it's time to take it off-road, and this ain't too bad. It's not too shabby. That 224 mils of ground clearance is not class leading, and there have been a couple of really minor kisses and scrapes, but overall it feels fairly capable. I'm not getting a sense of, oh, maybe I should back off, maybe I shouldn't approach this section. It feels pretty good. Oh, shit. All right, now I've stumped it. This ain't moving. I'll chuck it in 4 low, still no dice, must have a wheel half cocked in the air. Let's lock the front and rear diffs and see if that helps. Okay, almost blasted myself into orbit. That's better. The 4x4 system works rather well, generating plenty of purchase and splitting torque wisely between the axles. The coil-sprung double wishbone front and live rear axle suspension also deliver decent wheel articulation, which does help on the challenging terrain. All right, get through this water crossing and beep beep, let's see how it goes up this hill climb. Well, it is fairly dry. Thought this clay surface would be a little bit damper, and it absolutely walked up there, so no problem with the tyres thus far. And we're still in 4 high and we haven't locked any diffs yet. That's impressive. That's a good four-wheel drive system, and the suspension too. It's doing a great job rolling over the various undulations. The engine torque does a pretty good job propelling it uphill, and in 4 low, throttle modulation is smooth and steady. Sure, there's a limit to what these tyres can do, but the tank's platform architecture and 4x4 system deliver solid results right out of the box. A pair of proper hiking boots would make this vehicle so much more effective, but as it stands, it's a capable and confident bush basher. In fact, it's performed way better than expected on-road and especially off-road. As the opening salvo in GWM Tank's Aussie Assault, the 300 hits its target, mostly. It might look like a Wrangler knockoff, but it's actually a very presentable, capable and versatile 4x4. Simply put, it represents very good value for money. Granted, it's far from perfect and has rough edges in several different areas. But overall, I'm pleasantly surprised with what the GWM Tank 300 delivers. Now, stay tuned to our YouTube channel for more in-depth tank reviews, and we're going to do some comparisons against its key rivals, which should be very, very interesting. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel, send us a comment and like, and yeah, stay beautiful.